for your patience, and thank you for joining us here today. Just like in California, where the weather can be warm, we're finding it warm here in the beautiful city of Bellem. So thank you for joining us for our press conference titled The California Climate Leadership, Progress, Headwinds, and the Path Ahead. And I'm thrilled to be joined today by Senator Josh Becker, who serves as a state senator in the California legislature. He has been leader in climate legislation and in all sorts of avenues, driving forward California's climate agenda with the Governor Newsom's administration, and I'm excited to interview him and for you to have some time to ask him some questions. Tomorrow is California Day at our pavilion, the USA Action Climate Pavilion, so I hope you come tomorrow and learn more about what California is doing. Senator Becker, I'm going to turn it over to you for opening statements.
Thank you, Amy. I can't believe we are all here, that we made it to Bellem. And I'm so excited to share with you about California's progress and to discuss our vision for the future here with Amy. I know that much of the news coming out of the United States, especially about the federal government's retreat and actually undermining climate action, is discouraging. But I wanted to come to Brazil on behalf of the state Senate, on behalf of the legislature, to share a different story. One that reflects the determination, the innovation, the hope of millions of Americans. Because let me be very clear, Donald Trump does not speak for all Americans. In California, we continue to believe, by overwhelming majorities, that confronting climate change and accelerating clean energy deployment is not only an environmental priority, but a moral, an economic, and a public health imperative. I want to share with you that my son turns 20 years old today. My daughter is 21. This is about protecting our planet, our economy, but also about our children's future. California, we are in. And not only are we in, we are continuing to move aggressively. We've reduced our emissions over 20%, while growing our economy over 60+%. And our emissions are falling faster than ever before. We just got data back from the year 2022, 2023. Emissions fell by over 3%. So momentum is growing. And despite challenges from our federal government, Governor Newsom, the legislature, my legislative colleagues, and communities across California are doubling down on climate policies, on very significant clean energy investments, and on bold climate goals that show that progress is possible. I look forward to discussing that progress here with you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Can this one be turned on? All right. So thank you, Senator Becker. And again, I apologize with some of the AV challenges, but I'm Amy Holm, the Executive Director of the Climate Registry, an organization that was founded by the state of California almost 20 years ago to help organizations decarbonize their operations. And so, Senator Becker, I have a few questions for you, and then I'll turn it over to the audience to ask some questions too. So, first of all, you're right that most of the news the world hears from the United States has been bad. So, doubling down on fossil fuels, canceling tax credits, and other funding for clean energy. We desperately need some good news, and we're hoping to bring that to this COP. So how is California weathering the storm, and what are some of the big wins that you referred to in your statement?
Sure. Well, hello? Testing. Got it. Well, the U.S. government has made it difficult, canceling funding, including signed contracts, blocking permits, including permits that had already been fully authorized in the process, trying to block California's ability to regulate our own transportation emissions and vehicles. So not just indifferent, but again, trying to block and bring us back. The president has called climate change a hoax. But under Governor Newsom, we are fighting back in California. One of the major initiatives this year, led by our incoming pro tem, our incoming leader of the Senate, Senator Monique Limon, who will be the highest ranking woman of color ever elected in California, highest position, was to extend our cap and invest system till 2045. That is really our roadmap for climate action, and will also generate around $5 billion a year for us to invest both in mitigation and also in adaptation and resilience.
So congratulations on extending cap and invest. It is important to have long-term visibility, and certainly to a key policy like that. But can you tell us about California's progress, or what else can you tell us about California's progress right now? Are you still seeing emissions coming down, and are you still seeing increases in clean energy and a shift to electric vehicles?
Yeah. Well, again, the federal government actions can slow our momentum, but not stop our momentum. In fact, right now, California is up to 70%, about 70% clean electricity in our system, from 70% from zero emission sources. We expect to get to 85% by 2030, 85% clean electricity. In the first half of 2025, we reached 100% clean energy for 9 out of 10 days. And for those 9 out of 10 days, we averaged 7 hours a day of 100% clean electricity in California. Our grid-connected battery storage is up to almost 16 gigawatts. That's 20 times what it was before Governor Newsom started, what it was 6 years ago. In electric vehicles, 29% of the cars sold in California last year were electric vehicles. And again, with the federal incentives, we expect that to slow, but we already have almost over 6% of all vehicles on the road in California are electric vehicles. And the average carbon intensity of our fuels is already over 20% lower than regular gas or diesel. And we reached that goal 6 years earlier, such that our Air Resources Board has now decided to accelerate to get to 30% by 2030. And then, of course, thanks to your work, Amy, we have the nation's leading climate disclosure laws. That means that every large company that does business in California is going to have to disclose their carbon emissions, and I'll talk more about that.
Wonderful. And so in California, that's been generally very supportive of climate actions by state officials. Voters seems to have taken a slight turn and showing a lot more concern about affordability, which is natural, and jobs than they do about climate change or other issues that may have been characterized as woke. Do you think that this change is real? And if so, how is the leadership in California adjusting to these changing priorities from voters?
Well, affordability is an issue, and I led a delegation this summer to the EU and in England and France, and they're all facing the same issues. They're working, hello, Leila, we're moving forward, but having to bring everyone along, and that means affordability. And the good news is that clean energy is cheap. But electricity in California is still expensive. Again, it's not the clean energy. The generation portion of our energy has not increased at all. But it's the wildfire costs that have caused this to increase. Wildfires, of course, are caused and increased by climate change. We took 2 steps on affordability this year. One was a bill I did to establish a Western electricity market. That's going to help California meet its clean energy goals at a lower cost. It's also going to make sure that other states that might not care as much about emissions, it's going to accelerate clean energy in those states as well, because it's going to be cheaper. The second bill I did was to reduce grid costs and make electricity more affordable. But a couple things that we still do need to do is continue to deploy as fast as possible, but also those promising innovative technologies that may not be, that may well eventually fill gaps in our solution set and are not cost competitive yet. We have to support those innovative technologies that may become cost competitive to fill out our solution set.
Thank you so much. I do have some more questions for you, but I'm going to open it up to the floor and invite some of these lovely people that joined us today to ask a question. Would you like to choose them, Senator Becker? Your next question?
Sure.
Thanks. Hi, it's Victoria Seabrook from Sky News in the UK. You criticised the Republican president, but Republican states rolled out wind and solar faster in many cases than Democratic states. So don't actions speak louder than words? And secondly, do you anticipate the president may seek to influence these talks from afar, or do you think the fact that they're not so legally binding as other forums means that they won't be so much on his radar? Thank you.
Well, I think your question is actually good news. The question was about Republican states. It was really particularly Texas, I think, was sort of the one that deployed even a larger amount, even than California did, of solar and wind technology. And that's a good thing. That shows that it's economically competitive. It's actually cheaper. That's really why they did it, not necessarily because of climate action. And that's good news. So we're all for that, and we're happy to compete. I mean, California, we've built 20 gigawatts of clean energy just in the last 5 years. And as I mentioned, almost 16 gigawatts of battery storage, 20x what we had 6 years ago. So we are deploying fast, and under some of my legislation, we're going to keep deploying even faster. And I hope that those states will keep up too.
And the president, do you think he'll seek to influence these talks?
I mean, the president's made his position clear. He said that it's a hoax. He said that at the UN. And he's going to continue to do everything I think he can to sabotage our progress in clean energy and bolster fossil fuels wherever he can. But what I'm seeing from not just the elected officials that are here from America, the companies that are here from America. I was in Rio with mayors all across the U.S., from red states and blue states, red cities and blue cities, even Republicans and Democrats that were here together to deliver the message that the U.S. is in. So yes, I think he will try to influence the talks, but we're going to continue to move forward. Yeah, I think we had one right here.
It's Masato Kimura, Japanese freelance journalist. My question is about the Americanization. So, European Union has a carbon border adjustment mechanism, and China seems to follow the suit by China credit. It's a carbon credit. If European Union and China has a carbon tariff coalition, I think it could be a big game changer. What do you respond to?
I think the question is about carbon border adjustment mechanisms, which I fully support. And I think ultimately that'll be a solution at the federal level as well, because it's one that Democrats and Republicans can get behind. It's something we think about too in California. When I passed, the first bill I passed was a net zero target for cement. emissions, 40% reduction by 2030. And our Air Resources Board is coming out with a plan for that this year. But we also don't want to disadvantage makers in our own state. And so ultimately, we need that kind of a border adjustment mechanism. I'm hoping the president doesn't try to sabotage that, which there are indications he is, because we need that. We want people to take climate action, but we don't want to punish companies in our own states that are trying to do the right thing.
Thank you for being here. Hi, my name is Orion Camara. I'm born and raised in California, so glad to be here. We know that California has been pushing for good news, like folks were sharing, right? Pushing back against Trump and standing against big oil and bringing a lawsuit against major oil companies for their deception, leading the nation's largest oil and gas health and safety setbacks and banning fracking. It's been amazing to see that leadership, and yet we know that the scale of this crisis deserves more.
Yeah.
The question that I have is, California's Climate Superfund Act would essentially make the world's largest fossil fuel polluters pay for their fair share of climate damage, similar to other bills that we've seen across the country, like in New York and Vermont, those have passed. Would you support the Climate Superfund and to relieve the burden of California families to help our state really move forward and to show up in that leadership?
Yeah, the question about a climate superfund, absolutely, I support it, for sure. And as chair of the Energy Committee, I wanted to move forward. I also know the good news, I will say, even though that didn't advance, is, as I mentioned, we did strengthen our cap and invest system. And that is also a tax on polluters. And it will grow. It was about generating almost $5 billion a year. People had lost confidence in it, so it was a little less, but that's going to continue. That'll go back probably to about $5 billion a year, and that's supposed to now tighten. Most of our climate progress has not been from our cap and invest system yet, but that is supposed to change now as that window tightens. So the good news is polluters are paying in California, but I agree, I think they can pay more. I also do want to say one piece of legislation I was very proud of this year was working with Amazon Watch, and we have Layla here, the executive director, and many indigenous leaders actually came up to Sacramento, and I ran into them. The first people I saw in COP were our indigenous leaders that had come to Sacramento. And it turns out that 50% of the oil from the Amazon region comes to California. That oil, of course, is destructively mined, and we know that despite the will of the people, there are plans underway to expand new oil leases. We did a resolution this year, unanimous, actually bipartisan, in California, to say California has to develop a plan to move off of oil from the Amazon. And I look forward to being here with the indigenous leaders and our partners here at Amazon Watch and other NGOs to make that happen.
Hello. Considering the necessity to address climate change with nature-based solutions and ecological resiliency, I'm curious how California is trying to address reducing emissions by also restoring native ecosystems and really trying to accelerate the recovery of those carbon sequestering. There's so many different landscapes in California, so I'm just curious, the approach to, especially with cattle ranching and monoculture farming as the biggest driver of deforestation and ecological destruction. Are there any upcoming bills or legislation that's working to address that?
Yeah, excellent. The question was about ecological solution, nature-based solutions. Are we increasing those, and how in California? We're obviously very large and as pointed out, a very geographically diverse state. And the great news is, yes, we are. I'm really proud to work with our Secretary of Natural Resources, Wade Crowfoot. Secretary Crowfoot will be here with our governor tomorrow. And we've made a tremendous amount of progress towards 30 by 30. It's not just a goal, it's actually a plan to get there. And last year, along with my colleagues, we passed a $10 billion climate bond. And a lot of that money, which the first chunk of it went out this year, is specifically around these kind of nature-based solutions that you are referring to. So that is absolutely critical and something I'm really excited about. And as we go forward, I think a couple of the areas we need to really continue to work on in California, I'll mention, number one, industrial emissions. We see about 25% of our emissions are industrial emissions. We have some good plans, some strategies, but there now are in each of those, the technologies are now ready in the industrial sphere we have to implement, but we also have to measure, incentivize, and count both engineered and nature-based carbon removal. And that remains to be something that we need to keep doing in California. We need to keep working on. We'll take two more.
Probably one more.
Okay.
One more question.
Why don't you both ask, and I'll try to answer both.
Yeah, I think it can be short. Thank you for being here today. My question is, given the importance of scientific advances for climate change, can you comment on if and how California is responding to federal funding cuts to higher education and research?
Great. Why don't you ask two, and then we'll try to... Anything else you want to say? I'll turn it over to you to close. Yeah.
Yeah, and my question is, I'm Maarten van Gestel from the Dutch newspaper Trouw.
Can you speak up?
Now that the US is not formally present here as a negotiating country, like what do you concretely hope to achieve here as California at COP?
Yeah. Well, I think one question was around education cuts and what are we doing. And in California, on a K-12 basis, we're actually not only accelerating about $150 billion a year we spend on K-12 education, and we're also working on a certificate of climate literacy. We have it now approved. We're going to try to roll it out in other parts of the state. That's one of the things that we're going to continue to do. But where the federal government comes in is cuts to our UC system, our research. That is absolutely a huge threat and could be devastating to California. UCSF alone has $800 million a year of grants from the federal government. So those cuts to the UCs would be devastating across the board in research, and we're working on that. The other question, I think, of what we're hoping to achieve, I think with our governor coming here, stepping forward to say that California's in, the US is still in. We're doing it through action. We're doing it through action. Even though our federal government is not here, we want to talk about the action we're doing. I didn't get to talk about, even though they took away our waiver to regulate transportation, we're now working with our Air Resources Board, come up with legislation next year to figure out ways around that. Building performance standard around a bill that I did coming back next year. How do we do emissions from buildings? The state planning to reach carbon neutrality by 2035 for our own operations and our own fleets and our own electricity use 10 years before the rest of the state. And now CARB working on these regulations that will have a global impact, we believe, around carbon disclosure, not only making required, but really making the companies think about their emissions. And really, I think it'll spur, you can't reduce what you don't measure. It's going to spur them to develop plans, further plans to reduce their emissions. Some are doing a great job, some are not, but this will also push it down into the supply chain. So what we're really here to do is both talk about what we're doing, but also learn from other regions, learn from other countries. And I did a lot of that learning in Rio. I look forward to doing more of that here with all of you.
Thank you for joining us. And I know we're going to say thank you. Bye-bye.
And it's hot up here, so be kind to the follow-on presenters. Thank you all. Yeah, can I...